very much for inviting me to be a part of this very important faculty development program. And I've been seeing the list of names that have been, of people who have been invited for this program. And really, I'm honored to be a part of this program and, being listed along with all these names really is an honor. My name, as has been pointed out, my name is Shrikant, and in my introduction, there's a lot of mining stuff. I'm a mining engineer, and I'm director of Master Geotech Services. But more important, and that is the reason I got invited to the program, is because I'm a trainer at the Heartfulness Institute. And right now I am in the glorious ashram just outside of Hyderabad in a place called Shantivanam. So let's try and make our hearts smile, okay, with this little presentation. So before we start, I wanted to take this as a poll, but let's use the chat boxes. On a scale of one miserable, 1 to 10, 1 being miserable and 10 being ecstatic, how happy are you right now? Use your chat boxes and let's get some responses of how happy everybody is. We have 138 people online. Let's get some responses and see how happy people are. Wow, very good. I have 8s and 10s, and I have 1, 6. Well, yeah, I'm getting a range of numbers now, but a lot of 8s and 10s, which is really fantastic to see that, in this troubled times, we are still being able to keep ourselves happy. And you don't really need this presentation, do you? If you're already happy, then, how can I make your heart smile? But let's try it anyways, okay? Thank you very much for your responses. And I know we're recording this, so we'll get a track of how these responses have been. Okay, so let's start and evaluate where you would like to go to relax. Here are some pictures. This is one place. This is another place. And here is the third place. I have been to all 3 places. This is a picture of the Atacama Desert, actually. Okay, so where would you like to go to relax and why? Let's think about that. Why would you go to any of these places to relax? Somebody would like to go to the beach, okay? Oh, I would like to do that too. Some calm place, stay at home. Very good. Very good. Okay. But at these places, the 3 places that I showed you, one place is excuse me, just a minute. Yeah. One place is a beautiful garden. The second place is a garbage dump. And the third place was an arid desert. Okay. So I know that you have all given your choices of where you'd like to go to relax. Okay. But in these 3 places, most of us would like to be in a place of greenery, a place of beauty. And even if it's a place of stark beauty like the Atacama Desert, we still like to go there. Okay. Why? Because it calms us and it makes us feel peaceful. It makes us feel happy. Okay. So if we are able to go to these places, we can relax. But can we sense where we are? If I blindfold you and put you in the desert, will you know where you are? Are we aware of our surroundings? Very often, we use all our senses to figure out where we are. Okay. And the senses that we have: sight, smell, sound, taste, okay, and touch. And there is a sixth sense also. And that sixth sense is what really or guides us to a place of comfort. Even if it is smelling great, we can always sense if it is not comfortable or if it is not, if we don't feel safe in that area. Okay, so that is what our sixth sense does. And when we look at people around us, the people around us also emanate vibrations. They, being in people who are happy and being with people who are stressed are two different experiences. So these two pictures I picked for you. One is possibly from a place like Bali, where the villagers and the people are in a native environment. They're very comfortable. We used to live in Indonesia, and we used to travel regularly between Indonesia, the place where I was working, we'd travel to Bali, and then from there we'd go to Singapore. And very often we'd see smiling faces in Bali, and the stressed person that you see on the right side, that's what we would see in Singapore. Now consider for a minute that in Bali, the people there have very little. They are not very well to do. The GDP is significantly lower than Singapore, and they have a lot. They had a lot of trouble because of the bomb blast, because of the tsunami. All that put together created a lot of disturbance in their side. But still, they had smiles on their faces, and we really enjoyed being in Bali. Singapore, on the other hand, a very affluent state, and all the people, person we saw, we just see these people on the in the air, from the airport right into the city. We always a lot of people have stress on their face. Can we sense who's around us? For example, look at this person. What do you think? Is this person happy? What is the image that what do you think about the image that you're seeing right now? And most of us will agree that this person is looking stressed. Okay. How about this person here? She is in a dance and she is participating in a dance, but from the face, you can feel she choice. Who would you like to have around you? A joyous person or a stressed person? Sometimes you see faces like this and you're not really sure, is this person happy or is he sad? Is he stressed or is he not? And each time he smiles, it's got a right smile on his face. It's not necessary that his heart is happy. But one thing I can guarantee you, if you come across a person who's happy from inside, who he or she exudes happiness, that you want to be around that person. And you'll find, in your groups, in your colleges, in your social group, in your families, there are people who exude that happiness, and we always want to be around them because we bask in that happiness. Just like we go to a garden and enjoy the calm and peace of that garden. And if we ourselves can be such that we don't require, we exude that joy, we exude, that happiness, and people want to be around us. Why they want to be around us is because, like us, they want to be in a place of peace and calm and joy. Okay? that everybody wants to do that. As children, you know that we love to laugh, and we all had pictures of us, all times. Everybody knows our pictures like this, and we love to share also. We love to share our joy, and that's part of how we are. That's part of who we are and how we are, right? And when we grow up, we become like this. Look at the joy on the faces of these children. The oldest of them is on the left side of the screen, and she's the one who's looking as joyous as the other. As it is, as we grow older, we take more and more of the stressed environment around us, and we show it on our faces. Okay. Unfortunately, from our childhood, we keep seeing places like this, people like this, or I would say, fortunately, we see people like this, and we want to become like that as well. We become our role models, a happy couple at a young age, a happy couple growing up and at an older age as well. Okay. And there's so much, togetherness and joy in those people. But often what happens is we end up like this. Okay. And again, just think about your own families and your own situations and how often we end up in situations like this. Okay, so it is something that becomes a part of our life. The part of it's the way we interact with people, the way we behave, and the way we share our internal condition. Okay. Our happiness is really influenced by multiple factors, and let's look at some of these factors. As teachers, all of your teachers, or rather, I would say many of your teachers, and you will know that learning and absorbing is what brings us joy, brings us happiness. Okay, so as long as we are learning and as long as we are absorbing good things from around us, we are constantly happy. Perception and attitudes are very, very important too for our happiness. And we'll talk about these things. Thoughtfulness and compassion. Compassion is such a powerful, powerful emotion that really fills us with happiness, fills us with joy when we see the results of that compassion. And it's not for the results that we have an outpouring of compassion, but the results are there for us to see, and that makes us happy. Deep faith and gratitude is another one that again fills our heart and helps it exude happiness to all those around us. Okay. Of course, the standard thing of fulfillment of your needs. I want something, I get it, I feel happy. But that unfortunately does not last for too long. And all of us have gone through that. Being masters of our own destiny, being sort of like in control, uh, is again something that makes us feel happy. Being masters of our own destiny does not just mean being in control, but being aware of how you're progressing and where you're going. Okay? So that's another thing. There are many, many, many more factors which influence our happiness. But let's just go through some of them and see what we mean. Okay, and to do that, I know all of us as children, we have loved stories. And today I'm going to indulge and tell you a couple of stories, few stories. Normally we do this presentation, my wife and I, we do this together. She's sitting here with me, but unfortunately, the technology does not allow both of us to be speaking at the same time today. I'll see if she can log in and maybe, log in on another computer and see if she can also share a couple of the stories. Okay. But in the meantime, this is an image of a Navajo storyteller, and she's just like our Nani or Dadi in the villages. All children around gather around her, and she is the one who tells them stories which often convey meaning, convey values, convey important information, and help educate the children in a more holistic way. Okay? And we all have that. And we all remember our dadis and nanis, and very many of you, I'm sure, are dadis and nanis who are looking after your grandchildren in this way. So let's learn about learning and absorbing. Okay, let's talk about that. There's a story here from the Mahabharata, and it's a story of Eklavya. And Eklavya was a Bhil prince, and he saw Dronacharya teaching the Kauravas and Pandavas archery, and he was really impressed, and he really wanted to be a great archer himself. But he could not find in himself to go and approach Dronacharya, so he did not. Instead, what he did was, in the jungle, he created a small image of his guru, and in front of his guru, with the guru's latent guidance, he practiced his archery and became a very, very powerful, very talented, very accomplished archer. His archery was, his study basically was motivated through what he saw in his teacher. He saw the devotion of his teacher, and he saw the passion of his teacher in imparting the knowledge to the children that he was entrusted with. That motivated him to say that, no, I want to learn from a teacher like this. All of you would recognize this kind of a teacher, a person who motivates us through their devotion to the subject, their devotion to the to the act of teaching, and their passion for imparting knowledge, and their passion for the subject as well. These things inspire the students. Okay, so Eklavya was inspired by this great guru, and he said that I want to learn. And he says, it doesn't matter if the guru is not there with me. I am creating an image, and I am going to learn archery. I'm going to practice my skills of archery in front of this image and get guidance from him. And lo and behold, he became a great archer. And when Dronacharya figured out that this archer was very good, and you know the story of how Eklavya filled a dog's mouth with arrows without hurting the dog, but making sure that the dog did not bark and disturb. Okay, so Dronacharya then saw that this young man was a great archer, and he wanted to know who is the guru. He asked, "Who is your guru?" And Eklavya bowed down in front of him and said, "Guruji, you are." And he showed him the murti, the image of Dronacharya that he had created, and he said, "Here is where I have practiced. Here is where I have got guidance, and this has helped me become the archer that I am." Dronacharya was very, very impressed, and the story goes that Dronacharya said, uh, he was affected by the prowess of Eklavya, and he was uh, says that he was afraid that Eklavya could be a better archer than Arjuna, his favorite disciple. And so he approached Eklavya and said, "Well, if I'm your guru, you have to pay me Guru Dakshina." Guru Dakshina asked for the thumb, and knowing that without that thumb, Eklavya would not be able to fire an arrow. Okay, so he asked for the right thumb of Eklavya, and when the thumb was asked for, Eklavya, without hesitation, cut off his thumb and gave it to him. The story really has two lessons for us. One is the lesson of one is this, the story tells us about how Dronacharya and his love for Arjuna made sure that there was no one who could equal Arjuna, and so he got Eklavya to cut off his thumb. But when a guru asks for a dakshina from his student, and the student gives that dakshina, In this case, it was his entire, whatever he had learned, everything was being thrown away by cutting off the thumb. Student who says, I don't care. My guru has asked for this, I'm giving it. How many of us have done that for our gurus, our teachers, and how pleased we are and how blessed we are when we find a student who treats us with that respect, with that much devotion, with that much passion. Story of motivation through devotion and passion on both sides, the guru's side as well as the disciple. When a teacher sees this kind of student, our hearts fill with joy, and our hearts are, absolutely, we're filled with joy, and we pour that joy out and share with all around us. There's a story of Socrates and the crying child. And Socrates, sorry, the image is not coming and staying. But Socrates once was going to the beach, and on the beach, he saw a young child, who was crying. And he asked the child, why are you crying? So he says that the child says that I've been trying to fill the ocean in this cup, but it does not fill. And so I'm trying very hard, but it's not happening. So Socrates sits down, wonders about this, and he starts crying too. And then after some time, the child stops crying and throws the cup into the ocean. And Socrates sees that and he says, oh, the child has stopped crying. What happened? So he looks at the child and says, what happened? The child says that, well, I know that the cup cannot fill, I cannot fill the ocean into my cup, but I know that if I throw the cup into the ocean, it can become a part of it. And then Socrates really started crying. He says that, I have been trying to gain knowledge. I've been trying to know everything that is there to learn. And I've always felt that I don't have enough capacity to learn everything. Okay. But if I forget myself and put myself in nature's arms, then I am one with nature. I'm one with the knowledge that I'm trying to gain. That is what I need to do. Okay. So that's the story of Socrates. What happens is that whatever environment we are in, we absorb things from that environment, and we create a joyful, beautiful scenario or situation inside us. Okay, so here's a forest, and these are colors of the autumn especially in the east coast of America. We have these wonderful, glorious colors that are there. Okay, and what the trees have done is they've drawn the nutrients, all positive things that they need, and they created this beautiful foliage. Unfortunately, there are negative things also around, and sometimes they affect us very badly. So here's another forest, but this forest has been damaged by activity of geysers. Okay, and these geysers have eaten away the roots, and with all the malnutrients creeping into the trees, they've killed off the trees. So wouldn't it be nice if we absorb everything positive from around us and then give a beautiful, colorful foliage that everybody would like to be with, rather than getting damaged by the activity of negative thoughts? Okay. So we learned about learning and absorbing, and in that I've talked briefly about stories about how we deal with learning and absorbing in our daily lives. Okay. But let's look at something else. Let's look at being thoughtfulness and compassion. And there are two aspects to this. One is being thoughtfully thoughtful, and the other being thoughtlessly thoughtful. Okay. When you're thoughtfully thoughtful, you're actually putting energy into it, into your thought, and trying to create or push an environment. Thoughtlessly thoughtful is you're not even bothering about the positive effect that you're likely to create by your action. Okay, so let's look at some of stories on that. Here is a story about Ryan Hrelak. He was 6 years old in 1998, and the story is that he was in school and his teacher was telling him about uh, places in Africa where they had no water, and often the children would have to trek long distance, many kilometers, to go and get water for the house. And he says, that is not good. I get water here all the time, so everybody around me should also get water like that. So he started collecting money at home and he said that, okay, I want to build a well in Africa. So he told his parents, I want to build this well. It'll cost me $70. Somehow that number of $70 came into his head. It'll cost me $70. So I will do chores around the house and you pay me money. And that money I will use to build a well in Africa to help those people who do not have. When he raised $70 and he realized that it was going to cost more than $2,000 to get a well in that area, he started, he started going around the neighborhood, engaging other people, engaging friends, engaging families. It was $3,000 that year, and yes, he built that well. But that was not the end of the story, because after that, he continued in the same stream and continued to raise wells and water projects around the world. He's raised more than $1 million. He built more than 1491 water projects and 1263 latrines. I think Modi should invite him to our country also, right? Swachh Bharat ka abhiyan ke bhag ban sakte hain ye. He's also installed 31 rainwater harvesting tanks in Mexico. And all it was, but the will to help of a 6-year-old. He just had a thought that he wants to help somebody, and he put himself into action to make it happen. How many times do we see situations where maybe I could have done something, and how much happiness and how much joy it would fill us to see something like that really coming through? This is the story of Babar Ali, the youngest headmaster in the world. And let's see this video. Try and log in from your phone. It's truly inspirational to see how young people at a young age can be inspired enough to try and change the world, change the situation that we are in. Okay? But as we grow older, also we can take such actions, and some of them we do thoughtfully, some thoughtlessly. There's a story of a young lady who used to travel by train every day from her place of residence to the place of work. And this train would pass by this particular barren patch of land, and every day she would see that barren patch of land. One day, she had a bunch of seeds in her hand, and at this point, she just threw the seeds out without thinking what it would do. In a few days, these wildflowers started coming up along the track, and what was once a barren patch of land, which was not really something to see, it became a patch with beautiful wildflowers, and that became an attractive point for her and for all other people as well. Again, think about your own journeys, and wherever we have crossed places of beauty, suddenly you come across a place of beauty, and we don't even think who has created this beauty here, who has been responsible for getting this here. We are just happy that somebody did, something happened. It may have been natural, it may have been man-made, but whatever it is, it's a place of beauty that has come up in a apparently barren space. There were many times that we used to drive between Phoenix and Tucson, and we used to wonder about, we used to be really happy to see the daisies and yucca plants and other wildflowers that would be on the path, between Phoenix and Tucson. That same joy we can also convey to others in interior or internal environments. So this is a story about a Starbucks coffee place, okay, a Starbucks shop. And somebody came up to the desk, came up to the counter, ordered his coffee, and paid for his coffee. And he paid some extra money, and he said, okay, this is for the next person's coffee. I would like to pay for the next person's coffee. So when the next person comes up to the counter, the salesperson says, well, your coffee is already paid for. I said, really? Who did that? And he says, okay, that stranger paid for my coffee. And so he says, oh, okay, then I'll pay for the next coffee, the next person's coffee. And before they knew it, everybody in that Starbucks paid for each other's coffee, but they were sharing, an experience of, of compassion, of being thoughtful about others, the extra coffee. There's a restaurant that I went to in Perth, and this is an Indian restaurant run by Indian immigrants. And what the immigrants had done was that they said, you can come into this restaurant and eat all you want and pay what you can. And many people come into the restaurant and pay themselves, but for a couple of extra meals. Okay, and there were several people who would come and who could not afford food anywhere else, and here they could get a complete happy. The happiness that was afforded to them is reflected in the joy that is in the faces of all those who made that happen. Okay, so anytime you have an opportunity of paying it forward, please do so and see how much joy it creates in you. I'm at the ashram right now in Hyderabad, a place called Kanha Shantivanam. Here we had an experience of pass it forward. Just 1 minute, please. So we had an experience of pass it forward by a young man from Gujarat, and he and his team had created a system of paying it forward, and he created a system of places where you could pay for other people's meals, you could pay for each other, you could really make sharing a joy. Our perceptions and attitudes also affect the way that we enjoy our happiness, okay, or exude happiness. So let's look at this wonderful picture. Here's a young man, and yes, he is a Mike Tyson, right? Well, at least he thinks himself to be a Mike Tyson. He knows that he is not, but in the mirror, he imagines himself to be something else. How we see ourselves is very different from how others see us. Okay. Let's look at this young lady. I call her young because she's probably less than 90. But her image of herself, I mean, she's just creating an image of herself as a young lady dancing. And that's the shadow that she's actually doing shadow dancing, right? So these are images that how we see ourselves, and it's very important. If we see ourselves as weak or powerless, or unable to do something, we will always be like that. But if we see ourselves as something that in a more positive light, we can influence others as well. Okay, and as teachers, it is very, very important that we realize that, and what we show to the students is what they will remember, and they will pay heed to, and hopefully they'll learn some of those lessons and move forward. So here's a little story about poverty. And this is a story about a church in America. And this church, a lot of poor people coming and coming to the church on Sundays. And on one particular December morning, the father in the church, he announced that the priest in the church, he announced that, okay, for this coming holiday, for Christmas, let us all get together and put our money together to provide support to the poorest family in the congregation. And so everybody went to work, and they all started putting the money together. Everybody knew there was one particular family that was really poor, really hard up for money. And they were having troubled times. So they decided that, okay, everybody thought that, okay, that's the person that we need to help. So they started getting things together and collecting money for that family. The family itself was unaware of what was going on. And lo and behold, just before Christmas, everybody gathered at the church, and the priest announced that, okay, we have collected this $300 through the hard work of all the other parishioners, and we would like to give it to the Jones family, and requested the Jones family to come up and collect it. Jones family said, we didn't think we were poor. Everybody else thought we were poor. We thought we were richer than somebody else, and they money themselves to provide to somebody who was less fortunate. Along with us, I would like to tell you the story of one of our friends who's an American young lady who came. He worked, her husband was working with me in Indonesia. She came, she spent time in Indonesia with us, and then on a vacation, she went back to the US, went back home, went to her church for a day. And at the mass, at the service, there was a question about poor, and she says that we are not poor. There are many, many people around us who are less fortunate than us, and if you really want to help, those are the people you should help. And within this congregation, none is poor. So it's all a question of perception. We poor more. We think we are rich with what we have. We will always want to share what we have with others. Okay. So here's another play for you about being poor, rich and poor. नहीं आ रहा? Good question. Can you hear the music?
No, sir. Actually, it's not very clear. Like we can recognize something is
So
going on at the
let me
back.
start this video again, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me play this again, okay? Okay, I'm going to play the video again.
Yes, now, sir, it's audible.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, now.
Okay. Hopefully you like that video. There's another story, and I know many of you may have heard this story before. It's a story about the teacher and the teacups. The teacher invited a group of his ex-students to his house for a cup of tea, and all of them came. They were all very pleased to see their old teacher, and they all came, and he served them tea. And he was actually doing an experiment. So what he did was he collected all the cups in his house, and he filled them with tea and gave it around. He pushed it around on trays, and people started picking up the cups. The first cups that got picked up were the biggest, the brightest, the cleanest, the most complete, things that looked to be in a set, things that were not chipped or discolored, things that were almost perfect. And then slowly, people starting up those cups which are left over, cups which are broken, which are out of sorts, out of color or discolored or not really part of a set. And he knew, that okay, it was just something that also happened to be there. And the thief saw this cups being shared, and the people who took the last cup, a happy look on their faces, they felt that okay, you know what, I should have picked up the better looking cup. Come to me in time. Then the teacher addressed all the students. He says, yes, professor, the tea is very good. He says, the good cups, you're happy. Some of you got the bad cups, or and you're sad. The tea is the same, and all the tea has been. The cup is immaterial, really. What is really important is the tea. Focus on the tea and not the cup. Don't make how things look, but remember how what. That is the important lesson that a teacher was able to impart to his students. There's another very important thing in this story, and that is never too late to learn. You're never too old to learn. And these are things that we realize very often. We think we know everything. Realize that every day there is something new to learn. And one of my seniors, when I was in America, he made a very fine statement. He said, "Nobody so from them." So it gives us an opportunity to learn from everything around us as well. Here's another lovely little video, and I hope this plays well. The story of the crab that you may have already seen and heard before, but just view it in terms of this context. Keep ourselves cheerful and thankful.
Long, long ago, there lived a hard-working by the name Bhimaya. He used to carry water to his in the two pots that are tied on either side of a log. One pot was leaking, while perfect. One day, as Bhimaya was carrying a perfect pot set to the leaking pot, "Ha ha ha ha! You are broken and of no use to the owner. You waste more than half of how much water he carries. I am more useful. I am more helpful to him than you are. I am superior to you." The perfect pot felt greater all the time, and it belittled the leaking one. And so the leaking pot felt very bad that it is not being able to be useful to Bhimaya. It felt ashamed that it cannot carry water like the perfect pot. One day, the leaking pot said to him, "Dear Bhimaya, please exchange me for a better one." He said, "But why?" It continued saying, "I am not able to carry all the water. The cracks in me are leaking it. I am a burden to you and I am of no use." Bhimaya understood its misery. He said, "Don't feel bad. Look at the flowers lying next to you." The pot turned to its side with curiosity. It was very thrilled about seeing them. Then Bhimaya said, "If you observe it, those flowers are only on your side and not on the other side. When I am carrying water, I make sure that the water you are leaking is going to those flowers. It means that you are only watering those flowers, which are used in prayers. If it wasn't for you and the water you leak, there would be no flowers to offer to God. Do you see how useful you are now?" The leaking pot thanked Bhimaya. The perfect pot heard the behavior. It apologized to the leaking pot, saying, "Forgive me, my friend. I insulted you by stressing your weakness. I realize my mistake." Bhimaya heard it all and said, "You are both used. Let's stick with each other and work happily ever after."
A lovely little story that emphasizes the importance and recognizing that uniqueness. And As all teachers do know that we look for that uniqueness and support that uniqueness in our classes. Uniqueness was supported by our teachers. Let me kind of bring this around to a close and show you this sign. We often keep pushing hard on the door of happiness. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't realize that it opens inwards. So when you look inside of you, you know that things that bring you joy, bring you happiness, are controlled by things which are inside of you. And those feelings of compassion, thoughtfulness are all things that bring us. So let's be cheerful, let's be thankful, free, and let's see if we can change the environment around us. Is that I'd like to show you changing the environment. This is a large processing plant in Brazil, and somebody had a vision to rebuild it, and they created a huge sports complex, okay, using all the waste fill materials that was in the area. They created a place of joy that was close to our house in America, and again we enjoyed that place because we realized that out of waste something beautiful had. Another beauty was created at this place in Canada. This is the Butchart Gardens in Victoria, Canada. We had the pleasure to go there. This is a limestone quarry, and this was the state at which it was left. Butchart, the owner's daughter, she said, "You cannot just leave it. We need to transform this." She helped in the transformation of that place, the famous gardens, and anybody going to this island of Victoria needs, will always spend time at this beach that's been there for, I think, for about 30, 40 years. The garden, and it has been all the imperfections in all the have got covered with the large plantations and very lawns and flower beds that are in this garden. So, can we do that for ourselves also? If we can change the outside environment, can we not do the same with our own inner environment and take the stress out of ourselves and leave ourselves with joy, which we can share with others? All it needs is lots of cleaning, planting the right seed, nurturing the seed, giving it the right nutrients and water, offering some prayers, because everything happens with that, and then waiting, patience. And as we wait, we create something that's really beautiful for us to enjoy. We wait for the environment to change. We can do the same things for ourselves. And the process of heart meditation that we follow is what we are in the ashram right now. What we do is we clean our minds of all our impressions. We sow the seeds of positivity during meditation, nurture those seeds through our daily practice of meditation, prayers for our own spiritual development, and then wait and wait. And finally, we see ourselves being transformed. Very often that transformation that happens is something we ourselves cannot see, but everybody around us experiences it, sees it, and they want to be around us. And when we know that people are coming around us and spending time, wanting to spend time with us, wanting to spend time in our company, in our environment, it shows that we have changed ourselves. So again, using the concepts of cheerfulness, thankfulness, being stress-free, let us go move forward to our inner transformation. Okay, now we had this measurement of happiness before the session started. Then what I'd like you to do is, again, on the scale of 1 to 10, tell me how happy you are now. Please use your chat boxes. All right, getting some higher numbers. Not all of them are at the top, but there are some higher numbers coming in now. Many of those higher numbers may be because finally today's class is over.